Hello and welcome to Stir Crazy Art Classes with Gerald Savine, lesson number 33. We're now going to start doing the painting of the ducks and their surround. To start off with, I'm going to paint the ground, the earth and the grasses around. I'm going to leave the ducks to last, but we'll be using the same colours primarily. What I've got is already squeezed out. I've got some sap green to give some of the darker green here. I've got some ultramarine blue. In reality, when I did this, I used Payne's grey, which again works well. Now for the ground, it's muddy old ground, and we're using raw sienna, burnt sienna, and a little bit of burnt umber as well. But then we'll work that round, and also the colouring. If we get this far today, the colouring there for the bowl. What I've also done is, because I'm not using Payne's grey for this painting here, I've mixed up some ultramarine blue and some burnt umber to give a nice dark, almost black colour, which I should be using again later on for doing the outlining of the birds and some of the other bits and pieces here. Okay, so I'm going to crack on quickly now. First of all, I'm going to actually do some of the ground colour. Now, here again, there's one of the things about, I always keep saying this about watercolour painting, is you can start off quite thin and gradually build the colour up, working carefully around the animals. And again, I'm working across, pulling the colour across, because bear in mind this is ground, so it's ground level coming across here. Doing it nice and quickly, and working with the lighter colouring. Trying to make sure that this lines up through here. And I hope, by the way, you managed to look and see the shapes that are being created between each of the animals. That's where the old negative space bit comes in, and it helps you get things right. You can gradually build up the colouring here. I hope I'm not getting in the way of the camera. Now I've got some water in here, and I'm just managing to pick up the colour, thin it down, pull the colour, making sure we keep more or less in line through there. Working around the shape of the animals, bringing a bit more colour. We can bring. See the thing again. See, you can splodge some colour down, and then thin it down on the pad itself. So working really quite quickly here. Again, we've got grasses growing here. So I'm just going to prepare the ground, as it were, for the grasses to go. So I'm doing this sort of effect again, but careful around where the animals are. And it's derriere here around the basin. Bit more water, bit more pigment. Because it's quite heavy when I go in there like that, right? But then as soon as you start pulling it, squiggling it around a bit, carefully around the animal. Where we've got the grasses and things growing on the ground, we can be a bit more casual. And it won't be exactly the same as the original picture over here. These things never are. Now again here, I'm adding a bit more pigment in. It's the same colour at the moment. We can get around its little tail. Coming down here. We can add the darker colour in the shadows a little later. We've got a bit of colour under here as well. Oops, let's see, be a bit more careful there. And it's need to be particularly careful where the animals themselves, the ducks themselves, because again, at the end of the day, they're the important part of the painting. The background and the foreground, literally the background and foreground, can be a bit quicker, a bit rougher. We're not being too fussy as far as that goes. But again, here we've got some grasses, so we're going to do that effect there. Soften that down a little bit over there, not that to be too. Again, down here we've got some more grasses down here. And while I'm over this side, I'll come over here and again work the colour. I'm going to actually getting through this colour quicker than I thought. I'll have to squeeze some more out in a moment. And again, see, we'll have grasses down here and grasses here, which give as it were, a finish to the bottom of and hold the painting together. And we ultimately, when your composition is important. It's not just the animals themselves that we're worried about. We want the whole thing to hold together. But again, as I keep saying, you've got more time than I've got to get these done. So don't be don't be shy. If it takes you longer to get done than I'm doing it, I've only got a few minutes on each session, but you've got plenty of time in between. I'll put some more colour down the bottom here. Again, I can give it a bit of a squiggle, so because it's obviously uneven ground really. I have to say the actual going back to the original photograph, it's quite damp, muddy puddles along here. But again, here I'm just going to. We've got some grasses here. I'm going to be doing that because they will become green grass in the white areas there. But again, they're sort of setting up. Taking the colour right off to the edge, towards the edge of the pad. Again here now I can then put in, I'm picking up some raw colour now. Can you see the difference in? It's amazing, a bit darker there where the grasses are going to be. Again where the animals are in places. You can see some of the sort of, this in fact is the shadow, and again under here the shadow from the grasses. So we're getting through quite a bit of colour here. But that's all right. I'm afraid that the time is going by really quite quickly. I managed to hope we can get to. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a limit to how much I can get done in a session. But I think it's important that you have a bit more time on some of these things, so that. You can really get to understand how things work. They're only comparatively short sessions, and now I'm going to make it a bit darker here again, just to hold the picture in. And down here, so there's different ways you can work things. Now I'm going to bring in a bit of the burnt sienna now to give a bit more sort of dark in places. Again here, I'm picking up. Pigment. The pigment itself is sort of straight out of the tube. Trying not to thin that down too much because we're using it as shadow and giving the variety of colour. Again, dabbing it on. Trying not to have as it were, lines showing up. I will bring in a bit of burnt umber into this as well later, just to really take it down even darker. So being very aware of time. I'm going to stop doing the shadowy bits now on the earth. I'm going to quickly have a go at the grasses so you get some idea how to work those as well. I'm going to change the water pot very quickly. Make sure that it's clean. Now again here, to start off with, we've thinned it down a bit. We can do this sort of effect. If I do one sort of area, hopefully you'll be able to pick up from what I'm doing, so that you can carry on yourself doing this. I'm going to bring in a bit of the raw sienna into there as well, because there's a different sort of colouring going on. Now what I'm going to do also now is I'm going to put a bit of green to one side. I'm going to put in a little bit of ultramarine blue in to darken it down. And again here, we can get this effect of different sort of shadows and lights going on a bit more nearer the ground, because again the sort of the shadows that's going on. You need to be able to carry this right the way through the background here. If you can see the original picture here, give you some idea. It becomes quite a well sort of cut off oblong shape altogether. You can also pick up a little bit of that mix of the blue and the burnt umber, and go in again here with some of the darker colouring in there. A bit more detail. You can you see how it sort of works together. But starting off with the lighter colouring first, then gradually build up. You can see how that's beginning to work there. Again, you've got the same down, lower down in these other areas here. What I should probably do is between now and next session, I shall add some more of the colouring on, so you can get a better idea of how it will hopefully look. My dear wife will be telling me shortly I've only got a few minutes left.
3 minutes.
Yeah. But again, a bit tidier where the grass is on the ground, as opposed to where the grasses and whatever's are working up around about. Again, here we can pick up a bit of the ultramarine blue with the green, dab in a bit of shadow. This isn't grassy, much more like a sort of shrubby area here. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a start, and as I say, we'll come back to it. What I will do in between times, which will be, don't forget, on YouTube this will be showing up on after 12 o'clock on Tuesday. The second session, or the second day, which will be next Friday, and again that will be after 12 o'clock. On Facebook it tends to turn up a little bit earlier. But again, I might add a bit more of the blue in here, give it more colour. If you allow the lighter green to dry off first, then put the other colour in on top, you'll get a bit more definition. It's all blended in a little bit here. It'd be nicer if it had a bit more time to dry, and you get a bit more definition. Okay, so I will have to call that a cut for now. I hope it's given you some idea. I'll do some more work and you can see how we've got on. Again, you've got more time than I've got. It'd be nice to get all this done, except for the bowl and for the ducks, and we'll talk about painting those in the next time we meet together. Okay, well, thank you.